the Berlin water movement.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me to this conference. I'm big enough to represent two organizations. You invited me as a member of the Berlin Water Table, but we are also a member of the European Water Movement, a network of European water activists. And they send you all the best to this conference. And maybe later we can talk how you could join this movement more than until now. And I hope that some of you will also meet in Thessaloniki and celebrating the one-year referendum of the water movement there. I'll be there, and also Klaus, and that's the link between the water table and Thessaloniki, because Klaus, a founder of our table, he went several times to Thessaloniki when they were preparing the referendum to bring our experience from Berlin to their campaign in Thessaloniki. And I think he was quite useful in this, and that's also a reason why I'm here today. As I think you know that in Berlin we managed to re-municipalise our water works. And that's why we are not in that same situation in the moment. I would like to show now the differences between your situation now and ours in Berlin, but of course also stress out the similarities and links so we can learn from one another. You are defending something what we are still dreaming of. You are defending not to pay extra water taxes and not to install water meters, because you already pay enough taxes. We in Germany have water meters since long, and people don't ask it anymore, and we pay water fees since long too. But in Berlin, the price for water climbed up very quickly after the privatization of the Berlin water works. When it was privatized in 1999, they sold 49.9% to Veolia and Thames Water. I concentrate in the following on Veolia because the Thames Water has changed. They are now active in gas and are going out of water, while Veolia together with Suez are still the most aggressive water companies in this world. Well, this was done in the well-known form of PPP. And sometimes in Germany I show our bad history of the PPP in order to warn people to believe that this is a good form of privatization, or even they say it's not a real privatization because it's halfly public, but that's wrong. Well, but all in spite of our differences and our situation, we have the same enemy. Its name is, oh sorry, just a moment please. Well, oh yes, it's right. Its name is, well, in Berlin it is Veolia. Our enemy are the big water corporations, and Veolia and Suez are worldwide the biggest. They have more than 70% of all privatized water in their hands, when you keep China out. But they also are moving into China. And they hope to use the austerity politics of the EU to to be able to buy shares of your water. That's behind your water structure, that's behind your situation that they put water meter, because without water meter they can't measure water, and they can't put a price, and they can't charge you. That's all behind. Well, that is your bad situation in the moment. While we were able to throw Veolia out of Berlin in 2018. The news that the Berlin water is back in public hands, and was a very good news, and I hope it still is a message that can encourage other water activists in the world, like it was the message when Paris water was re-municipalized. Yes, I do think that when we fight against water privatization, we must blame our politicians for selling out our commons to private corporations who have only one aim: big profits. But at the same time, we must stress out who are the vultures circling to steal our water. Here is one of these. I brought some of these stickers because in the moment we don't need them anymore in Berlin. So if you want to take them. You asked me how I managed to get rid of Veolia and Thames water. Okay, that's a history of David and Goliath. I won't bother you today with all the details from our 9-year-long strategy since 2006, but I would like to stress out some key points, and one of these is that we always attacked Veolia directly. We knew that they had bought Berlin water in order to use the money they had taken out of our pockets for going shopping in other countries. So never believe when a big company is trying to go into water or other commons that they have another interest than to make profits. Of course, they tell you all sorts of other stories, but they are wrong. They have this only aim. And Veolia intended to use Berlin as a window display to show to the world how good they are, so they could buy other water companies in other countries. This plan we destroyed consequently, and it became surely one reason for them to leave Berlin. Another reason and another difference between you and us is the form of organization. And to say it in advance, I won't say that the Berlin Water Table is the model to win. I think there are many forms, but I would like to tell a little bit the story of the Berlin Water Table, just to encourage normal people here and in villages and so to take up their things. You are an umbrella of many groups, big organizations like unions, political parties, and so on. The Berlin Water Table was and still is a very small grassroots organization. We still prefer the advantage of this model, as an open table. It's no formal coalition between many social groups, ecologists, political parties, churches, and so on. Many of our members are members of these organizations, but when we work together for water, we do it not as delegates, but purely for our own interest in water as a human right. Many social groups supported us in our referendum 2011, and for sure that was the important reason why we have won the first referendum that was ever won in Berlin. But all these other organizations never became members of the Berlin Water Table. So we are strong because everybody is able to contribute to our fight. We have no office, no paid secretary, rely on donations, and are all volunteers, like I. We are a mix of very different people, and everybody does what he or she is able to do best, from analyzing contracts and balance sheets until conducting choirs. None of us could do this alone, but working together like this, our small group of individuals has become very good in fighting Goliath. What is the link, between us? You as a big umbrella and we as a small grassroots initiative. You as an umbrella are so successful because your base is on many grassroots people and activities. While we, of course, are also interested in spreading up, and for this we founded another forum called Berlin Water Assembly. But the main point that we are all fighting for is that we are all fighting for water. Besides the air, the most elemental basis of our lives. This is self-evident to every normal human being. We don't have to explain in the streets that water is a common and cannot be a source of profit. On this issue, the fighting Irish have gotten off the canvas and we are fighting again, said Brendan in his speech. He sent us for our event on the World Water Day. And he just continued, and we are winning again too, just like you in Berlin. And I brought you this. He sent me in a mail your label. I'm not sure that. Well, okay, I put it. Well, I must confess, Goliath is not yet totally beaten in Berlin. Why is David still fighting in Berlin? After the referendum, the Berlin government finally decided to buy back the shares of Thames Water and Veolia. But the price was too high. They paid them the profit for the 14 or 15 years remaining until the end of the contract in 2028. That's very typical for all PPP projects. They make a long contract, and then in the first 11 years, the private companies already made so much profit that they got the money they had paid in 1999, they got it back. We had paid this, and then went out, and for doing nothing, the Berlin government paid them until 2028. A very good model if you want to make profits. And now we, as the customers, have to pay back this credit with, for another following 30 years. So we paid our water already twice with the bills and in the first 11 years, now with the credit, and I'll tell you the third time we are paying back our water. The Berlin government, now the sole owner of the Berlin waterworks, hasn't changed the private holding structure. It hasn't even changed the manager who came from Veolia once. The now public company continues to have an undemocratic neoliberal structure. The Berlin government has only one interest now: to receive all the profit itself and maximize the profit in order to pay our big debts to the bank, because we have big debts in Berlin too. So they make us pay a hidden extra tax with our water bills, and that's the third time we are paying back our water. We say no to this. That's not what we have fought for. This is why our battle has not ended yet. We now are fighting for democratic, transparent, socially, economically, and sustainable water works. We want to change the management, water management in Berlin. And this seems to be another challenge we all have to face. Water and other commons in public hands doesn't mean automatically a democratic, transparent and sustainable management. On the contrary, most state-owned companies today are run like any private corporation, following the same neoliberal logic: maximize the profit, nothing else. But water, as other commons, should not be managed for drawing as much money out of our pockets. It should follow a complete different logic based on the elemental needs of the people, because commons are the basis of our lives and our social community. For this reason, we must not only fight against big private corporations, but also against neoliberal profit-driven logic in the heads of our politicians and our media. But I must admit, also in our own brains. We all are more or less contaminated by this logic already. We must jump out of this logic, and water seems to be a very good possibility to do this. It's so obvious. So to come to an end, what can we do? And we started on the World Water Day to present a Berlin Water Charter with the intention to change water politics in Berlin. We regard the Water Charter as a guide for the Berlin water works and for interpretations of the existing and new laws. Maybe others can take up this idea in their communities. Water Charter can become another instrument of direct democracy. And I showed you the preamble just for the point number 2, because that is a link between local and global. These fundamental rights are inalienable and may not be restricted by national or transnational treaties. We wrote this in the protest against TTIP, CETA and TISA, because we are also working on this and we put it in this Water Charter. Well, I would like to end with the words of Yorgos from Thessaloniki, who also, besides him, sent us a speech for our Water Day. And he said, when you and we are able to win the battle for water, we are also able to change Europe. Greece has already started, and you are on the same way. And although the German government, I'm sorry I come from this country, plays a very wide role in this Europe, you must know that besides Mrs. Merkel and Mr. Schäuble and some more, in Germany, many other people are also dreaming of another Europe. Thank you.
Thank you, Dorothea.